Cut on this computer. There we go. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Mo, your host, and today it's just with great pleasure to bring these two wonderful guests to the podcast. It's a special Father's Day episode, and we're celebrating fathers of all kinds from around the world. And in this deeply personal and touching interview, we're featuring Paula of Talk Shit with Paula and her dad, Mr. Theo Mulamula, and to just talk about their unique journey and some of the lessons we can learn as parents and even as kids on the other side. For me, listening to Paula's episode with her dad, which she did about 3 years ago, we're going to put that link in the show notes for you to go listen. As a matter of fact, here's an assignment for you listeners. I know. The profit means coming out. You have to go listen to those episodes before you listen to this one because we're not going to be asking the same questions, right? So we're sharing about just their experience and Paula's life growing up, how she went from Tanzania, now living in Georgia, Atlanta, and the profound effect her dad has had on her. You only need to spend like 2 minutes with Paula. You hear a lot about her dad. We'll explore their cherished memories, the lessons they've learned, the powerful bond they share, and this episode promises to be a heartfelt tribute to the incredible dads who shape our lives and also maybe heal some inner childhood wounds for some of our listeners. And happy Father's Day to all the amazing fathers out there. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mr. Theo Mulamula and his wonderful daughter Paula to the podcast.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having us.
Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And let
So,
me just say something.
sure.
You must be so special because I didn't think my dad would say yes to doing this. I had to literally force him to come on mine. So this is technically, I know it's for Father's Day, but this is a gift for me because to be able to be on a show with my dad and not me as a guest, to just be
Yeah,
a guest with my dad
yeah.
and to hear the things he's gonna say, like this is a gift for me. So thank you for
Thank
giving us
you. Thanks to
this.
Paula. And yeah, God works in mysterious ways because this episode just started. The idea came about. Paula's name just flashed in front of me. Okay, for as a bit of a backstory, we're both in the same group. So shout out to Podbreakers. And she had shared her dad's episode about 2 years ago. And it stayed with me for whatever reason. And I just realized, oh my God, I should bring Paula and her dad to the podcast. So I sent her a message, and this was like maybe like 11 p.m. at night. And she responded quickly, and we were still chatting to like on early hours of the night. And she was like, I'm gonna ask
Actually,
my
it's
dad right
2
away.
a.m., 1 a.m. your time, 2 a.m.
Oh my
mine.
goodness. I thought, okay, you know what? I thought you were in Tanzania. I was like, oh, it's gonna be morning there. Let me just send this message before I forget. And she responded, and I'm like, wait, she's not in Tanzania. Actually, she's in Georgia. I mean, she's a night owl like me. And she's like, let me ask my dad right away. And before you knew it, we set it up because we're both like, when we want to get things done, we get things done. But this couldn't have been possible for sure without Paula. And also, of course, her dad just saying yes right away. So I'm super, super excited. And thank you, Paula, for, saying that. It means a lot. All right, let's start with, we're gonna take turn asking both of you questions because this is such a special time to have you both at the same time. So, Paula, maybe just tell us a little bit about your childhood and maybe a fun memory. And I know you probably have lots, but one core memory from your childhood that showcases your bond with your dad.
Okay. First of all, I love this man so much. And as you said, if anybody talks to me in 2 minutes, they know I love my dad. But so when it comes to sharing childhood memories, I have so many. But for this specific time, I'm gonna start with this one. But technically, I have three, but this one is like the main aim. I remember when this was the time when I used to study in Malaysia, and I would go home mostly December's, not summers, but depending on how things are, sometimes I'll go home on summer. So it was a December holiday because December, all the kids came home, whether you studied in India, most of us were like India, Malaysia, UK, USA. So that was the time where everybody was coming home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had this place called Irish Pub where every Wednesday night they had karaoke nights. It was so packed, you'd be like, it's a Wednesday, like, come on, right? So we used to go there, and this time we were there, my dad normally would drop us, and we were there with some friends, and two of my friends were outside in the car, just hanging out, and the thieves tried to rob. They didn't know there were people inside, and they tried to fight them. So one of them got hurt by the hand or something. And they started calling us because we were still inside, and we started coming out, and we were rushing to the hospital now. And this is in Tanzania, right? Where you can have 6 people, 7 people in the back seat carrying each other in one car.
Sounds like Nigeria. Yeah, I can relate.
The hospital, and everybody in the car is freaking because, mind you, we are teenagers, right? Kind of, because we're in college. So, like, still teenagers-ish. And we were drinking and stuff. So everybody's kind of scared to call their dad. While me, I'm the only first person who the thought that came to my head was, I need to call my dad. And everybody was like, no, Paula, we can't call parents right now. I'm like, I don't know about your parents, but I need my dad right now. Like, it's the only one who's going to bail us out. We don't have any money because we're going to the hospital. How are we going to pay for this? Like, we've already been drinking in the club, and we're like, I don't know if they're going to help us without having a parent because we're still kind of, So I called my dad, and my dad asked me what hospital I was heading to, and he met us there. He came in, he spoke to the doctors, and the whole time I was sitting outside. So people inside were just like, your dad is outside? So people were going outside, talking to him and coming back in, and everybody was like, your dad is cool. My dad did not ask anything, but as soon as we go home, and that's what I like. I think that's why whenever I'm in trouble, the first thing that goes is I need to call my dad. Because yes, he's going to be mad, but in the moment, right, it's going to be more about, okay, let's get you settled. Let's handle it. Then as soon as you get home, you go, so tell me what happened. But in that moment, he was just there to be supportive and pay the bill and make sure these kids get home safe. So that was like, you know what, even though I already knew, it was also in that moment that made me like, I am always, no matter what, calling my dad, even if I was a thief and I went and stole or something, I'm gonna call my dad. Wow. And then I'm gonna answer the questions later, but I'm gonna get bailed out. Wow. So that was one of the most serious moment, because my friends got to really see that how much I really depend on my dad. And then there was another one where, me and my 2 girlfriends were really bored in Dar es Salaam, and we really wanted a vacation. And somehow we just, I have these tricks where I can use to get my dad to kind of make it seem like it wasn't planned, even though it was planned. Now I'm old, I can share. So we had our trick of pretending like talking about Zanzibar right at the time he was walking in and sharing how much we were. And he decided to buy us the tickets, and we went to Zanzibar, and everything was taken care of. We were treated like princesses, me and my 2 girls. And it was the best moment ever. So one of many
memories.
Many I can share. I can write a whole book of.
A whole book. You should. You should. And I hope you guys get to watch the video, because Paula has just been glowing, recalling this episode. Mr. Mulamula, this question is for you. And so in listening to your episode with Paula, you talked about just some of the initial challenges you had, and even being a single parent. But I'm curious to know, when was it that you realized that the bond you have with your kids wasn't quite the norm? By the norm, I mean, especially parents of those time and that generation, you didn't have that, parents and children didn't have that bond where, and now things have changed now, but when did you realize that? And I'm also curious to know what inspired your approach to parenting.
Parenting is a very difficult thing. I mean, there's no school or college for going to do parenting. And since they were kids, Paula and his brother Patrick, every once a year, we used to go to Europe for vacation. We used to go to Switzerland, and then one time we go to London. Then I could see how the other parents used to live with their kids. And then I thought to myself, the way we bring up our kids in Africa is quite not wrong, but it's a different aspects of the whole thing. So I said, let me try out this new idea where I picked up from Europe, and then see if I can grow up with my kids. And to be honest, it's been a very wonderful thing, even though there are some hitches here and there, but we managed to grow up. We talk, and we had a different life compared to other families.
Yeah. And how did you grow up, sir? What was your relationship with your dad and growing up, or even your mom growing up, sir?
Pure African life, strict. Typical African life, whereby you have to wake up at 6, you have to be ready by school. You make a small mistake, you're getting. I mean, it was tough. It was tough.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to bring up my kids there too, because I felt that was not the right way to bring up kids, because I feel that by being too tough to your kids, you don't teach them much. I think by you teach your kids by talking to them and showing them what you feel and explaining your feelings to them.
Yeah. I imagine that during that time when you were raising your kids, people probably had a lot to say, like, oh my gosh, these kids are going to end up being very, very spoiled. How did you not resist, the pressure from other African parents looking at you like, what is he doing? Talking to his kids or having his kids do this and that. How did you resist the pressure from your peers and people around you, especially the way you raised your kids so differently?
I closed my ears. At that time,
because Africans always have something to say.
I had to ignore.
On my mom's side, they sure did have a lot to talk about. They wouldn't do it in front of him,
but they would say it in front of you guys.
Again, and I think that's like there's certain things I got from my dad, like being blind to people, whatever. But they would. For some reason, aunties always feel like it's okay to talk certain things in front of kids, especially back home, right? Yeah. They can talk shit about anybody. They don't care if the kids are around. So we kids, we would hear it. And shout out to my brother at that time, because my brother, nobody could tell him shit like that.
Shout out to Patrick.
Patrick was just giving them back the same attitude, and I think he was putting on more fire because you see, now they're disrespectful. But it's like not being disrespectful because we are taught where we should respect, but also respect is on. Like, yes, I'm going to respect you, but if you're talking shit about my dad, why the hell would I respect you, kind of thing. So Patrick came from that mentality where you gotta earn my respect, but he was always looking out for me. So I like that he was older in that way where he could talk, and then I just followed, and I became the crazy guy.
Oh wow. But I have a question for you, but I want to close this question loop with your dad. So looking back now with how you raise your kids, is there anything you'll have loved to do differently, Si, if you could go back in time?
Nope. To be honest, I don't think I can. I don't think there is, because I feel personally I brought up my kids in a perfect way.
Yeah.
The rest is up to God themselves. You know what I mean? You can, no matter how much you try, it's God's hands has to be there.
Yeah.
God can determine how your kids will be when they grow up.
Sure. Okay? Sure.
But to me, right now, I feel I did the proper job, especially being a single parent. I think I did a good job.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Paula?
Oh, I wouldn't trade you. If they told me right now I can choose any dad to raise me, I would still pick you. I would not choose anybody else to do this life thing with.
Oh, this you guys are just gonna make me cry over this mic, which is this is so good.
It was the time when me and my dad also, the more I was growing, right? Like when I was a kid, I was a proper daddy's girl. Like I still am. Like anybody who knows me knows that. But I would literally go everywhere with my dad. I would hang wherever he's hanging. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. Like I'm gonna stay where my dad is. And then as we were growing, because I was also growing, and when I was a kid, I was a tomboy, right? So. And then I'm growing into now this look. I remember the first time even I put on lipstick, because I don't do makeup. I don't like hair. When my mom left for UK, the first thing I told my dad is I want to go cut my hair, because the only reason I had long hair was my mom. African mom forced you to have hair.
Yeah, like a girl, yeah.
And my dad took me to cut my hair. So I was always a tomboy. But when I was coming into that stage of figuring out, like, am I still a tomboy? Do I want to try that being a girly girl part? So the hormones were getting there. Me and my dad really had to learn how to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
But that was a beautiful time.
The only problem I used to have with Paula, I used to have a hard time with girlfriends. And if I had a girlfriend and Paula would say, Dad, I don't like this girl, I had to drop this girl.
Oh, wow. You listen to her? Wow.
Oh, yes.
Wow. That's...
Because, you see, there's no point of having a girlfriend if your daughter doesn't like her.
So
there'll be no family.
There could be two things. Either she didn't like them or she didn't like the attention she was going to be having to share with the person. How were you able to tease those two things?
Well, in the beginning, I thought that, but as time went along, she had this thing. She had this thing with her, which said, well, Dad, this girl, I don't think is the right person for you. And later on, would find out what she was saying was the truth. And the other girls who she would love and be very comfortable with, and talk to them, hang out together, and it was perfect.
Mm.
And that's the thing when my dad says it was never about me taking the time, because my dad has been amazing at making sure that if I want my daddy time, I do get. Like me and my dad will go on dates, would hang out by ourselves, then we'll hang out with friends. Like he would hang out with me and my friends. I would hang out. Like the spending time was never the
Problem.
issue.
Yeah.
But what it says, like I really have, and when I tell people I really can read energy, like I can sense it. Like I meet people and I'm like, nah, you're proud. Like I can tell.
I'm like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also,
You
I
can't
didn't
explain,
want
but you
people.
just know.
Yeah, and also I already had a mother, right? No matter what the relationship me and my mother was, that was between me and my mother. So I didn't want any woman coming trying to be my mother. Like that is already taken. You just do your part. You're my dad's girlfriend. Handle that, and then let me like you for you. Don't let me like you because if I don't like Paula, then I'm gonna be cut off. And now it becomes like that. So I always like the people who just came and just wanted to hang out with me and get to know. And you can tell when somebody really just wants to get to know you, or they're doing it because of
faking it. Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. So tips to anybody trying to date a single parent, get to know the kids because you really care about them, not because you're trying to score some bonus cookies or anything like that. Mr.
At the end of the day, it tells.
It tells, yeah, and they can always say, Mr. Mulamula, you want to say something, Dad? You want to say something?
Yeah, and the funny thing is the way I work with Paula, my kids, I used to get so many offers from girls. I don't know why.
So single fathers don't stay single for a long time. Oh my goodness. Oh, Paula, this question is for you. Gabor Mate, who is one of my favorite psychologists, he's a Hungarian-born Canadian physician, and he specializes in, children psychology, especially ADHD and all that. There was a quote he said. He said, "No two children have exactly the same parents." Because they perceive their parents differently. You can grow up in the same house, but the way a father or a mother might relate with a child is different from the way they relate to another child. So when they grow up and they start talking about their parents, they look at each other like, "Mom wasn't like that to me." So I'm curious, definitely you having an older brother and you being the younger one and the girl, there'll be some ways your dad probably treated you differently, not necessarily favorably, but handled you differently than you handled your dad. What were some stark differences and in how you were raised compared to how your dad was raised? Your brother Patrick was raised. And how do you think that kind of shaped you, understanding both male and female perspectives? Yeah.
Well, we all know I'm my dad's favorite. So
hey, we need to get Patrick on the call right now.
and Patrick is my mom's favorite. Like that is known in our family. Like, but the thing is, I personally don't think my dad treated me and Patrick different. Like we all had the same thing. My dad was like, education was very important to my dad. And God bless this man. He spent a lot of money to make sure we went to good schools and we did not have no loan. I don't know anything about student loans because he made sure, to the extent where when I finished my grad school, I was like, PhD, I was like, no, please, I'm done. Like, give me a break. Like, but so we always have this thing where if you go to school and you do great, you can get whatever you want, right? Like, you want a new phone, you want a vacation. So Patrick never liked school like that. I hated school, but I would do it just to pass so I can get that. And that was where Patrick would be like, oh, but Paula gets this. But technically, you would have been able to get it as well. You're just, so to him, it seems that was different. But also, again, my dad might have given me extra because I'm a girl, right? My brother, like, you're a man. Like, if I'm gonna give you $100, I'm gonna give Paula like 120 or 30 because you're a man. Paula will be lied to with these men, so we're trying to protect these men instead,
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But as far as my mom's side, there was a lot of different. Like my mom, and I can't blame her because that's how they were raised, right? In Africa, where women kind of like the speech this stupid NFL player just gave.
I know, right? And his mom is highly educated,
So my mom was always about me being in the kitchen and helping cooking and all that. And then my brother, all he did was watch video games and play video games and wait for dinner is ready. And so anytime my dad was never in town, because my dad also worked in Zanzibar, right? So he didn't stay in there as much. He would always be back. Anytime he was not around, I'll be miserable because I'm made to do all these things. Because if my dad is in town, I get to live with him in the morning, and I will literally, as soon as I see my dad walking out the door, I would be
so
walking
happy.
right behind him. So there was that different, but also again, as I said, my mom was raised in that culture. So she was trying, she thought she was trying to do, but that's when I had this mentality where, and that's when I hated cooking. I never learned how to cook. I literally learned how to cook when I went to Malaysia and studied hospitality and started living alone, because I despised that thing because of what my mom was trying to do. So that shifted my mindset where that I feel like every child should be raised, like men should be taught how to cook and clean as well. Well, my
Survival
brother
skills.
actually
Yeah.
learned when we lived in UK, because now we were living in UK where my mom worked weird hours. There was never that you have to be home at this time for dinner. There was never a housemaid in the house compared to that where we had them. So my brother had to learn the hard way to take care of himself.
Yeah.
But I think those were skills that needed both of us to be taught in a younger age instead of just the girl and the boy does this.
Yeah.
So that's what I took from it. And I was like, if I ever have kids, I'm never going to do that, because there are some guys who turn up being chefs. Like, it doesn't mean that because they enjoy being in the kitchen. You should give everybody that opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
And I think she also missed that opportunity where when I see other women sharing that, oh, I learned to cook this with my mom or this, I'm like, I wish I had that moment, because mine didn't come in that way.
That way, yeah. Oh wow, that must have been a booster. Thanks for sharing that. And I think things are also changing now. With the way parents are trying to give their kids equal opportunity to learn stuff. I see cooking as a survival skill. Not like everybody should get to a level of a chef, but at least be able to put a meal together for yourself to survive, right? This is for Paula's dad, by the way. So Paula has shared a lot about just how she grew up, but I'm curious to know how was it like for you just allowing your daughter to express herself, especially when there were these traditional values that define, an African woman's identity? Because Paula is, she stands out so differently. You just have to like mix with her for a little bit. How was it like for you just allowing her just be herself, even though it's being expressed in what most people will call like the conventional African woman?
Yes, Dad, how was it?
It was fun. It was fun because well, it was different at the time, and people never understood. They would look at me and say, "This is it. This is it. This is a child. She makes a mistake, cane her." But for me, I took it differently. I said, you got to talk to your child, understand where the problems are, because she made a mistake. Maybe there's a reason why she did that. She made a mistake. Once you know the reason behind it, then you can make your judgment to her. And as I said earlier, I think it's because we most of our time during our vacation when we're in Tanzania, when they were kids, we spend it a lot in Europe, Switzerland or London. So you see the children up there, they could talk to their parents, they could communicate with their parents. And I felt this is the right way how to bring a child, instead of just standing there and start shouting and swearing at a child, without even knowing what was the cause of the problem.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. And permit me to even maybe make this guess that for you, you had this trust with your kids, like whether they were home or abroad, you knew that the values you've instilled in them, they were gonna carry that through and through. And your relationship with them was not one based on fear, but from trust and love. Would that be a right way of saying that? Oh, wow. Nice, nice.
Yeah, because you see, when you talk to them, you instill trust. They can trust you because you want them to come to you, no matter whatever the problem is. You want your child to come to you and talk to you and say, "Dad, I made a mistake. I think I did 1, 2, 3," and say, "Okay, let's see how we sort it first. And once the problem is sorted out, then we'll see how we'll deal with you."
Yep, the discipline always came after the help. That's why I would ask for help.
Help first.
But then when it was sorted, I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to stay for the discipline now.
Yeah. And that's a key thing you just talked about. Because I think for a lot of us parents, we start with the discipline first, and then this is where we lose it. You're losing that trust with the child. The fact that even though you were doing something wrong, the first person you thought of was calling your dad. I could never do that with my dad. I could never. Because I was just
even me when I was growing up, the moment you hear dad walk into the door, you run away to the bedroom and you hide.
You run away.
That's how we grew up.
Do you know how many times in my teen years I got drunk and made drunk calls to my dad and be like, Dad,
oh my gosh. African parents are like shaky whenever they listen to this.
I'm like, yes, that's the only person I want to talk to right now.
Oh wow, oh wow. Okay. I still have one more question for you that before I ask you yours. Mr. Mulamula, you talked about, sending them abroad, and I think in Paula's episode she talked about even traveling abroad for school and staying away. How did you cope with just letting her go away to study in another country? How was that like for you?
Very difficult.
Mm.
It's my only daughter, and it's became very difficult. But I said, education is paramount. Her education is much more important than staying with me. But it was tough, right? Because I remember the first time they went to school was in Uganda. And I remember watching them taking a bus because these guys were taking school kids from Dar es Salaam to Uganda by bus. And I was watching them, the brother get into the bus. It pained me so much, but I had no choice. What else can I do? Then I said to myself, nah, they can't take a bus anymore. From next term, Paula and Patrick will be flying for me. They Kampala, Dar es Salaam during the vacation. It was tough. I had to work hard to make the money. But other kids couldn't understand. I mean, I'm calling the headmaster. Look, don't put them on the bus. I'm sending an airplane ticket to bring Paula by plane. And they were shocked and they're surprised.
There was a time when I would beg to go on the bus only if my friends
for your friends, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna miss the ride, but most of the time I was so thankful. And this was the time when my brother just got expelled and he no longer was gonna study in Uganda. So he went back to die and he started, oh, now because I left, now Paula gets to fly. I'm like, nah, you did not leave. You got expelled.
Those are that siblings fight,
Exactly. Oh, yeah. But I want to say, I'm so grateful I grew up with a brother like Patrick because everything I ended up doing made it so small compared to the shit he would always do. So like he would always, as soon as he cracks the door, I go.
You can just go and you're like,
on you. Let me.
He was a trailblazer for you. Shout out to Patrick. So Paula, I had this question for you. I have some friends who are similar with you in the sense that they grew up with a very loving relationship with their dad. I didn't grow up like that, even though myself and my dad are cool right now. So shout out to my dad. But there's something they said when they go into the dating world, it's so hard for them because the men they find, it's almost like they can't find anyone that even can hold a candle to their dad. It's like there's this standard their dad has just set for them that makes it so hard for them to be able to find men that can really, they can connect with. How has that like been like for you, especially your relationship with men? I don't know if you are in a relationship right now or, something you're considering or you've had some experiences like that in the past.
Oh my God, tough. And it's funny you say that because it is actually true. And I have dated guys where, because every time my dad has given me an amazing life, right? And even when I was in Uganda, the guys would say, don't date Paula because she'll tell you, what can you do for me that my father can't do for me? Like, literally.
That's a quote right there.
Because while people are crying to men to buy them phones or whatever, I just send pictures to my dad. So Dad, I'm thinking, can you buy me this? What can I do to get this? I've never been like, because my dad makes sure I get everything, like literally growing up. So it was like, what can you do for me that was always a statement
exactly.
to me. And which most men at that time couldn't, because they couldn't afford loyalty, they couldn't afford honesty, they couldn't afford communication, because those are the things I need. The things that come with money. I can literally call my dad right now and cry and he'll send me a ticket or money or whatever. So but then, and then, which is also a curse, a blessing and a curse in disguise, because, and then I found a guy, and I think this guy also actually, one of the guys who actually really gets along, my dad actually likes it, but then again, I think my dad likes quite a few of my exes because they ended up still being friends, even though I dumped them. I'm like, why are they your friends? Like, they're no longer in my life. But that's also a problem of introducing you have a friendship with your dad. I never had that, I have to date somebody until this time to introduce them to my dad. As soon as I like them, I tell my dad about them and they talk and everything. But there's this guy, a headache. The only guy who has been able to give me a headache in 4 years straight is legit my dad. Like, he's a lawyer. He has there's certain things he'll sit and do, and I'll be like, that's what my dad would say. That's what my dad would do. And I'm like, I actually wanted a guy like my dad, and now he frustrates the hell out of me. Maybe it's so different when you have those characters as a father compared to
as a boyfriend, yeah.
I don't know, but it was just like, what the hell? So it is like, but I will always constantly look for specific characters in men of my dad, because to me, my dad has been the most amazing man I've ever known.
So what are those characteristics you look out for?
Huh?
What are those characteristics you look out for in men?
How he takes care of his family.
Mm.
A provider, he provides for his kids, he loves his kids, a supporter. My dad, tell me what type of parent in that age in Africa supports his son's music career and even creates shirts and CDs and ships them to
music career. Wow.
My brother is I don't know if I can call him a rapper, but yes.
Paula be supportive. Patrick is a rapper.
Yes. Mula Gang. Shout out to Mula Gang.
Wow, your dad supported that. Wow.
And my dad would also wear his shirt and hat. So the supporting communication, like, he can be hot-headed sometimes, but once you let him cool down, he'll be willing to have the conversation, and he'll even be willing to apologize when he knows he's
wrong. Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the things I look for. It's not about the money or I can get you a mansion, I can give you this. No, but can you support? Can you communicate? Can you?
Wow.
I mean, it's not a perfect man. He's done his own shit in his own time, but he's
your dad. Yeah.
He's still a stand-up guy compared to most.
And that's amazing. And thank you for mentioning that. I'm sure he's just, this is so wholesome to hear. So, this question is for you. I just want to clarify, because this didn't come out during the episodes with Paula. Did you ever remarry, or you've been single? Did a single parenting throughout the most time?
Yeah, right now I'm married.
Okay.
A wonderful woman from Uganda.
Okay, great. But when Paula and Patrick were younger, you were single. You're doing single parenting.
Yeah, I was single throughout, because I felt that I couldn't take care of two things at the same time. So until I made sure they're in university, that's when I sort of said, let me now. I'm getting older. Let me have a companion. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's cast that. Sorry, go ahead.
And just FYI, my bonus mom is amazing. I'm a big fan of her. And actually, I thought today was her birthday, but her birthday is actually May 11th. But she actually came also on my podcast to speak about Mother's Day, and she shared her story about being a bonus mom there. So she's incredible. I love my bonus mom.
Send us that link. We can add that to the show notes as well. So, let's cast our mind back to those times when you were still a single parent, with you and Paula and Patrick. So I have a friend who's a single dad, and he talks about how there's like a dichotomy. The society tends to be more favorable to single men, even if it may be through divorce or compared to like their female counterparts. But there's also a part where they don't get support, because it's like you expect to do everything by yourself as a man, right? What was it like for you, and what would you say were the hardest time as a single parent for you?
The hardest time as a single parent, it's let me be honest, was when Paula became of age.
Paula.
And you don't know how to explain why is she getting a monthly period, what is going on here and there. And those things, and then such thing, and then had to explain them. You're meeting these boys, but be very careful. Make sure you're safe and you're okay. There are diseases out there. I remember, it reminds me of a story. I'm sorry, I'm going to give you a small story about Paula. I remember when Paula was in London, and then she disappeared for 1 year. Nobody knew where she was.
Paula.
She never called us. She was just 16 or 17 or 15. So we're all depressed. So I just kept quiet. The mother in London was crying. Me, I don't know what's happened. Then out of the blue, one day she called me, Dad, this is Paula. I asked Paula, where are you? I'm in Birmingham. I'm staying with friends. The next day, I flew out to Birmingham. Now, the funny thing is, I'm waiting at the airport out there, and I see a big BMW, open roof with music pumping out. And there's Paula with this guy. And I said, oh, really? So I said, okay. I got in the car. They took me to a hotel, took me for lunch. And I said, okay, what's happening here? Because I had to know what's going on. And then she told me, oh, this is my boyfriend. We're staying together. We had friends who were sharing a flat, staying together, staying with him. I said to move to Birmingham and everything else. I said, it's your decision. I said, it's your decision. It's what you want. I can't stop you. But please be careful. Use a condom. I don't want to get pregnant. There's HIV.
That's the sex talk my dad gave me.
Whoa. This is so unheard of for an African parent in that generation.
This was the second time he gave me the sex talk. I'll share a story when he first gave me that talk.
But he gave me that talk. Most parents don't do this. Sorry, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
So I stayed for 2-3 days. I flew back to Tanzania. I said, you're okay. And I said, anytime you want to come back home, the house is there. Feel free. Don't think I'm mad or I'm going to throw you away. Just come back home, man. Don't worry about it.
All right. Let me share my version of
the story. Yes.
To clarify, I wasn't gone for a year. Like, can you imagine me not speaking to my dad for a year?
Dad, it felt like a year.
For a year.
It felt like a year for your dad.
He just made me seem like it was not a year. I can't even last 6 months without speaking to my dad. By the way, do you know even right now at this age, if my dad doesn't hear me in 1 week, he'll call in weird times and be like, are you okay? I'm like, did somebody die? Like, excuse me.
He misses his daughter.
I know, and I appreciate that. But also, sadly, this boyfriend of mine, who ended up becoming a very good friend of the family, until today was still my dad's friend, and he passed away this February. So, and he left 3 beautiful kids and a wife. It's so sad. But the reason I ended up giving my dad a call is because he left, and he did come. He left me a voicemail. And this is the thing, when I was in UK, people will tell you I had more than 6-7 numbers. Like, I was constantly on a new number. Like, it was like... So he left a voicemail saying, Paula, if you're pregnant, it's okay. Come home, we'll talk about it. And to me, I was like, oh, they miss me. Like, not like I even if I did get pregnant at that time, no matter what, they'll give me a hard time, but they were never going to throw me out, even though I knew. But at that time, also back in Tanzania, that's when these young kids were getting pregnant. So I would understand why they would go on my dad's side, and some of my friends who had gotten pregnant, their parents, because the African home. So it was like a nice reassurance that I needed. But the first time my dad gave me that sex talk, this was way back when I was studying in Rowett. When I just left Uganda because my mom went to UK, and I moved schools to Dar es Salaam. I was going to be in a boarding school on weekends with my dad because my dad, half of the time, was in Zanzibar or traveling. So one weekend, he had to go to Zanzibar, and me and 2 of my other girls, shout out to Tamasha and Gloria, I don't know where Tamasha is. And I was with my boyfriend at that time, and these 2 other guys, and we're just chilling, watching my dad pack and get ready to go. And he just left condom boxes over there and said, sex is fun, but please be careful. I'm not ready to be a grandfather. And he walked out the door. Do you know the fact that me and my friends just stayed like this, like, what just happened? How do you even go have sex after that? Like, wait, what? Like, do you know once your parent gives you even permission, you don't even want to, like, excuse me, like.
As a trick, give them permission so they don't do it. That was onto something.
I'm like, what if there are cameras in here? Like, what if my dad sent somebody to watch? Like, what if this is a test? Like, literally, like, this is a test. Like, and literally the next day, we did not even enjoy it, and we thought we'd be excited having the apartment to ourselves for the weekend. I literally called my dad the next day and I was like, can we come to Zanzibar? And he sent us tickets and we went to Zanzibar for the rest. Like, we ended up being where he was. Like, so much for the condoms.
Oh, wow, Dad, that was smart.
At least he was honest, right?
Yeah,
but which
yeah.
like, because certain people, when they have sex talks with their kids, they scare them. Oh, you're going to do this. Oh, you shouldn't have it until you're...
Oh, don't touch a boy, you're gonna get pregnant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
sex
they
is
get
horrible. It's dirty.
traumatized with that, even though when they grow up. So at least it was like, you know what? Be protective. And he was right. At that age, he was not ready to be a grandfather. No offense, but...
Oh, wow. All right. So let's talk about career. So I know your dad is a lawyer and you had a brave stint trying to study law, but I'm
Me
curious
and my
to...
brother both.
Oh, wow, wow, wow. And how would you say your dad has shaped just, your career choices, and how's that been like for you, Paula?
Well, to be honest, I don't think I ever liked law, but I thought, because I was a daddy's girl and I've seen people follow under their dad's footsteps. So in my head, that's what I was trying to do, right? And me and my dad used to read together. And like, I love Jackie Collins because they were my dad's book and I was reading. I love John Grisham, which were law books. Like, he was a lawyer writing about law, and So reading those, I was like, I want to be a lawyer. I want to do this. Until you go to law school and you're like, this really... Sometimes you gotta know also your intelligent levels and where you are in life. And to me, it was like, in UK, I would have wasted my dad's money going to law school and then failing. And then, because the course we went, and it was St. Patrick's, weirdly, because my brother was called Patrick, and he went to St. Patrick's and he dropped out after one semester. And I also dropped out after one semester, and we all had the same lecture. I was like, are you related to that Patrick? And I was like, not again. But when I did drop out, when I realized I didn't want to go to law school, and I feel like the reason my dad also agreed to that, I think maybe he always knew that law wasn't for me, even though I'm very argumentative. And as a kid at that age, I was such a good liar. So those were good qualities for a lawyer. I'm telling you.
Lawyer.
Like, but I went, and that's the thing. I wasn't afraid to have a conversation with him, but something about my dad as well. Even when I have a business idea, he'll be like, bring me a business proposal. So I knew when I was going to him at that time, I was like, I was building a case of wanting to drop out of law school and take a year gap. Now imagine you're telling an African parent year gap, but then again, this was not a typical African. And I never go to my mom, because my mom is a typical African mom.
Yeah.
She needs to be like, slowly. So I normally go to my dad first. As long as my dad says yes, then that conversation is between you and my mom. Like, I'm good. Yeah. So I did I told my dad, I was like, Dad, law is not for me. I really don't think it is. I want to take a year gap. I'm going to find a job, just check out life in the world. But I promise you, by this date, I'll have an answer and what I'm going back to school for and where I'm going to school. And my dad was like, as long as that's the date you have, timeline. Like, he did ask some few questions in between, but I was like, do what you gotta do. And I took the time. I did do some weird jobs. I did travel to Birmingham, to whatever, to try and experience different things, which I'm glad I did. I worked in an African shop in London, in those streets. Like, I got to do different. And before even the deadline date, I went to my dad, and this is the thing. At that time, a lot of my friends were going to Malaysia, and I was talking to a lot of my friends in Dar es Salaam. Mind you, I was in UK for 5 years without going to Tanzania. So my friends at that time were also going to college. So to me, it was like, this is another way to reconnect with them, because I didn't like UK. The weather was not for me. The people was not for me. I did not enjoy it. So I told my dad I wanted to go to Australia because it was more farther, and I knew he would say no, and then I'd come with an option like, oh, well, this is expensive far. Malaysia is closer and cheaper. And I went to him and I told him I wanted to study hospitality. And most people, when they found out I studied hospitality, they were not surprised. I feel like it belonged to me. The way I am, I like creating events. I like being around people. So when I went to my dad, he literally said, okay, let's look into schools. We looked. Next thing I know, and my dad works like this. Like, as soon as you tell him, just be ready for it to go to production. Like,
I see where you get that from.
It didn't take less than a month. I was packed up and leaving UK. I went to Tanzania. I was there for a week. I had not been in Tanzania for 5 years.
For 5 years, wow.
I arrived on Saturday. I left the next Saturday. We were in Malaysia. He was paying school fees. He got me a place, paid everything for a year, left me, did every shopping for me, left me good. It was like, okay, now let's see you go out and flourish. So supportive is always has been, even when I remember when I started podcasting, I called him when I wanted to build my life with Paula brand with my depression or share about my depression online. I talked to him and he's always like, go ahead, do it. So he has always been very supportive. And I think, again, going back, I've never met my grandfather, but I've heard stories about him and how he was, how strict, and how he was more like, to be respected, you need to be a lawyer or a doctor. Because trust me, I had this story that my dad actually went to law school. He used to do business, then went to law school to prove to his dad. So I think he didn't want to put that pressure on us and allow us to do whatever we want and be supportive, as long as you still get educated with it. Even when my brother wanted to do music, my dad was like, okay, but let's enroll you into music school, not just do the street music, you know?
Get an education, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I love about it, and I'm grateful for that. No matter what, I will call him, like whatever stupid idea I have, I'll call him and I'll tell him and he'll support. He will wear my merchandise, like he has my hat, he has my at home, they have my magnet on my fridge. He likes to read. I made sure he has my bookmark for my brand. Like, he's very supportive. And even when he wore my hat, he came to me and was like, where do you sell this? Because there are people asking for them. I was like, oh, look at you.
Oh wow. Okay. This is just really, really amazing.
So I'm grateful in that. That's why when I say, when even people, when it comes to talking, when I share about my depression and my suicide, when I tell people, like, I am grateful I have somebody to think about when I choose not to end my life, because certain people don't have that. Because I know if I do that, I'm gonna be killing this man, because my dad will have any conversation with me, will help me out through. Even if you look at me and say, this is your own fault, you did this to yourself, it will still bail me out. So I have no reason not to go to my dad for anything.
And that's amazing. Even as a grown up, to have that support, I think not many people have that. And for you to be able to see that and highlight that, I thank you for that, Paula. Thanks for sharing all of that.
Oh my God, I'm gonna be 35 in June, and I will still call my dad crying to him.
Even though the tears might be sad, but that's a great thing that you have, and it's not quite common. I hope you know that, Paula.
I know, and I appreciate it, and I thank God every day for that.
Yeah. I had some follow-up questions, but for that, I think, especially for parents who, I imagine for you being a lawyer, maybe initially your thoughts were, okay, one of my kids should follow in my footsteps. But if I were to imagine the kind of person you were, you didn't linger on in those thoughts. So we're not gonna belabor that point. But I want you to maybe speak to parents who are so gung-ho about it, like, my child must do this, my child must follow in these footsteps. How would you speak to them in a way to, maybe be more supportive and not make their children in their own image? How are you able to let go of just those maybe initial aspirations you had of one of your kids becoming a lawyer, and then realizing, okay, this is going to be their path in life and I'm just going to support them regardless?
I remember when I was growing up, the African lifestyle with my parents, those days, either you're a doctor or an engineer,
or nothing else.
or nothing else. And
we are hires. You should Google that in Swahili, hires.
And then when I didn't want to be all of those, I could see the disappointment on my father's face. And then I said, let me be a lawyer. It might make him a bit of happy. But anyway, unfortunately, I became a lawyer when he had already passed on. So he didn't see me being a lawyer. Okay. But I've come to learn one thing. You can't force a child to do something which he doesn't want to, because you might force him to be a lawyer, you might force him to be a doctor, you might force him to be an engineer, but if it's not in his heart to do that, because he can make his income, he can make his money in any profession. Nowadays, any profession you do, you can make your own money. If you want to be an actor, you make money. You want to be the driver, you make money. If you come and tell me, I think that what the parents, African parents should do, should listen to the kids. What do you want to do? And then support them 100%, because the support you give to this kid is more appreciated than forcing him to go and do something which he doesn't want to do. And by supporting him on that, on whatever mission he wants, he's going to come on and say, let me do my best so that I can prove to my dad, you've supported me and I've done it. Instead of being forcing him to be a doctor, and when he fails to become a doctor, you get tired, you start fighting against each other, and you lose hope and everything else. That's all I have to say.
Wow. I like how you emphasize just supporting them wherever they might be, because the goal is financial independence, right? And it might not look like the way you want it, but the fact that they're able to get themselves ahead of life and do what makes them happy and what makes them balanced, I think that's what most parents should strive for, rather than just forcing them to do something that they might not enjoy
Exactly.
doing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Now let's segue a little bit into mental health. So Paula is big on mental health, especially on her podcast, and even some of the things she talks about, she's very open about her struggles with depression. And I think in 2022, she launched her podcast just as a safe space for candid conversations on mental health. And over time, it's evolved into a platform that celebrates, the talents and stories of creatives while continuing to highlight mental health awareness. So make sure you all check her podcast, which we're going to tag in the show notes. Talk shit with P. So sir, I have many questions about this, but let's start with two. One is mental health is not something that is quite acknowledged in a lot of African homes. So what was that been like for you? And two, despite the bond you share, imagine there's a form of helplessness as a parent that might come with, how can I, despite all this, my daughter is still struggling with this. How have you been able to cope with that, and knowing how supportive you've been, that this is still a struggle for Paula?
To be honest with me, it's devastating. And sometimes I become depressed myself. And then and it's even worse when Paula calls me, sometimes crying and telling me what's going on in her life. And here I am in Tanzania, there's nothing much I can do. And she's in the States. I even reached a point that I talked to my wife, Irene. I said, maybe she should bring this child back home and stay with us so that she can get out of this depression. But my wife, Irene, said, no, let us struggle. And if we bring her here, you're not solving anything. Let us stay and she becomes independent and she'll grow up in the long run. But it's been a task. It's been a tough situation. And sometimes I don't want even to think about it, but then I strongly pray to God that everything becomes normal and okay in the near future. Because I keep wondering to myself, and I sit here and I say, I'm around and she has somebody to call to and talk to. Well, what happens if God takes me? Because we don't have a contract with God. God can take you anytime. Who will she talk to?
Mm-hmm.
These are the things which I think, and I pray every day that she stabilizes and she's okay before God takes me.
Amen. Oh, Paula, so for you, someone might say, well, despite having a supportive family, why what's going on? What's going on with you? But that's not even the question I want to ask you. Um, I'm curious to know, how have you been able to cope, day by day, especially with the challenges you have with your mental health? And what are some of the, I guess, in addition to your dad and all that, what are things that help you cope day by day? And this is really to help those who might be in the same shoes as you, despite having such a supportive environment.
uh, I think when I finally came out and shared that I have depression, it bonded me and my dad in a different way. Not that we needed any extra bonding because we are so
Yeah.
but to be able to speak to him about that, and him also knowing that he sometimes get depressed, and it's become a thing where now that he'll check on me and be like, check on this person. I think they're a little bit depressed. So he's really taken my advocacy and being there to himself and support. So it's like sometimes we tag team with each other, which has made it even extra more special. But I think it all starts with being truly open with your people. Because I tell this to people, my dad wouldn't be able to know how to support me if I hadn't come out and said it, or even the people around me. And sometimes it's okay not to know how to support, because trust me, sometimes when we are dealing with it, we don't know how to support it. Because I might be doing so good, like, yes, life is gonna have its hurdles, right? There's never gonna be, and I might just wake up and just be sad. And I don't know what's sad. So when somebody tells me, how can I support you? And I don't know myself why I woke up feeling sad, it's kind of hard. So I think let's just pray for each other more, and let's be more open and honest with our people. Because sometimes we think we don't have support, but it's because people don't know. If we are pretending we are okay when we are not, nobody's gonna help you. And I'm grateful I have people like my dad and my younger brother. Like, I know that I'll reach out to them and just they'll talk to me and make things right. I have my bonus mom I call. I have Amina who's here. Even with our ups and downs, I have Matthew. Like, I have specific people who I know, they know certain ways of how, when I'm dealing with things, to pull me out. But it all comes about just learning to be your authentic self and opening up. Let your people know what is really bothering you. And until you do, don't call out people for not helping you, because that's wrong. And also seek help, like therapy. Therapy is important. Therapy is good. And there are other ways. I know it can also be expensive, but I've constantly been in and out of therapy, and there are resources out there that help you get cheap or even free therapy. Use them, abuse them. Go to counseling or groups, support groups, join communities. People underestimate the power of communities. I'm constantly surrounded in communities, whether it's my podcasting communities, whether it's that, like, I have different communities where I go for different fuel. Because at the end of the day, sadly, with this world, especially since 2020, we have been so virtuous. So it's such a lonely world that we live in, where everything is happening online and less is happening in real life. So do more real life stuff. People underestimate the power of also fresh air. Like, I walk a lot. I don't hike, but I will walk. Don't take me hiking. I walk on the streets, I get fresh air. I like sitting outside, I like boxing. I'm not a gym person. Some people, gym is their therapy. I'm not a gym person, but I sure do like boxing. So whenever my head, because I'm an overthinker, whenever my head feels like it's so filled, I put on my boxing gloves and I go punch that bag. Like, it's all the things, like whatever I'm seeing in my head, that's what the bag is, and I'm punching the hell out of it, and I feel so good. So just use whatever you need. I tell people that podcasting saved my mental health. Does that mean I'm cured? No, depression has no cure. It just has tools for you to use to make it.
Manage them.
So podcasting helps me when I come on here and talk to different creators and share stories. You see how I laugh and I'm happy. That helps me. So if gardening is what helps you, do a lot more of gardening. If coloring or drawing is what helps you, do a lot of those. Go to art shows. So all these things, just try to get out of your head and be present.
There's so many things to tease out of that. Definitely. First of all, thank you both for talking on such a very delicate topic, and I imagine it's been a real fear for your dad. But even in listening to you, you talked about so many great resources, like the power of community, leaning into community, finding tools around you that might work. But all that to say, as I was listening to you, I could sense the hope in it, and I hope dad was able to pick that out. Paula is gonna be fine. because she understands the power of community and the bond you both formed, with yourself is what she's trying to recreate in, partnering with other people through her communities, her podcast. She's gonna be fine, Dad. And
And
I'm not
prayers.
a soothsayer. And prayers, definitely. I'm not a
Prayers.
soothsayer, but definitely I will tell you that she's gonna be fine, Dad. She's gonna be fine.
And I told
I
my
hope so.
dad, like as long as he's alive, I'm never committing suicide. So I can be as depressed as however, but I will never, like I'm never gonna put my dad through that. Now, once he's gone, I don't know, Irene, be careful. But
Once it's gone, the strength will come from you will not even know where the strength is because you have to keep, how would you keep the legacy going?
I
How
don't know.
would
There
you
was a time, it's
Yeah.
funny you say that because there was a time I was weighing the options, and this might be so weird, but my friends call me weird because people don't like to talk about death, even though we die. And me and my dad, I sometimes every time call my dad and I'm like, "Do you have your will? Do you have this?" And he's a lawyer and he doesn't have that shit ready. Like it does not make sense to me at all.
It makes sense actually.
No, it would have made sense as him being an African, but him being a lawyer, like, can we get through that? Because
But he's still an African first before he's a lawyer,
yeah, I've been writing my will since I was in Uganda in Vienna College. I was writing
because you're the
wills.
child of a lawyer. It's different.
I was
You
writing who
know,
I was leaving my shoes with, who I was leaving my books with. I didn't have money at that time, and I was writing wills. But what comes to it is, I've sat down and I've weighed, right? Like, do I want my dad to die before me? Will I survive? Or if I die before my dad, will my dad survive? Like, it's like there's no win or lose. Like, and not to put a big head on myself, but my dad won't be okay when I die. Like that's a reality.
Yeah,
Like
no father, no parents should bury their child. That's not, yeah, that's a
yes,
one. Yeah.
very
but there
bad.
are
Yeah.
some parents who like their child half. My dad loves me wholeheartedly, so that's a whole different story. And so I sit down and I'm like, God, if you're to take us, please take us together. No, no, no. And this is no offense, because sometimes I do get very offensive with the way I say shit. But like how Kobe and Gigi, like they went together.
Yeah, yeah.
Like God, if you're ever to take me and my dad, can you take us together? Like that way none of us
But
have
you
to.
live a long life, a long, fulfilling life, and if you're
Amen.
not
And I
gonna go
hope
before
so.
your
By the end
time.
of the day, we're all gonna
Amen.
die. That's what I'm saying. Like when it
Yes, we're
comes
all
to
gonna
that
die at the end of the
time.
day, but not before your time. You're gonna live a long, fulfilling
No,
life.
he needs to walk me down the aisle. He needs to walk me down the aisle before he
That's
dies.
then hurry up then.
When
Meet him.
when is that, Paula?
You need to talk to that boy.
Yeah.
Dad, you wanted to say something about well, I think you were about to say something when Paula was talking.
I was saying about writing a will. She's
Yes,
complaining
yes.
about the will, but we have this African mentality whereby when you start writing a will,
That
you
means you're
just
about
begin
to
to think,
die.
"I'm going to die tomorrow, so let me just put it aside for a while until when I'm ready, I will write it."
Paula,
No, you need to write your will.
Paula, my mom doesn't even have emergency contacts. I told her, "Who's your emergency?" She said, God forbid, we'll never have emergency. I'm like, Mom, just put an emergency contact. So, don't come for
The
African
worst.
parents and living wills. Like, no.
Me, I told my mom I wanted to be cremated and my ashes to spread everywhere. She said,
Don't do that.
"What?
Don't do that.
What? What?
Don't give your mom a coronary, please, please, please.
My dad was like, sure, whatever you want. And my mom was like, wait, what?
Okay, oh my goodness, both of you. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're rounding off down, but I had a couple questions before we round off. So this is for let's start with Paula, Dad. Um, you and in your conversations, I could tell that you and Paula's mom had different parenting styles. And I imagine that the layer of, just the separation also added a layer of, I want my child to be this and that. Now, for families navigating those differences caused by separation and also your philosophy about parenting, how were you able to find common ground to not butt over, one another, but at least raise your child in a very wholesome environment, especially when there's like a separation or a divorce in your case?
Well, when we were together, it was a very complicated and difficult because I've never, since they were born, these kids, I've never raised my hand to touch them. Okay. I will talk to them, I will move along. Their mother was a very strict African lifestyle. So you have to negotiate how to bring up your kids. So you just, and as you know, the house is made The
My
woman
mom.
is the one who makes the house.
Yes.
So you cannot every time override her. So you just keep quiet and watch. It pains you sometimes what she's doing because they will come and say, Dad, we want to go somewhere. Let's say to go sleepaway. Those days we used to have a joint in the some called sleepaway, where every Sunday everybody used to go and hang out, all the kids. And I would say, yes, well, no problem. I'll drop it. I'll pick you up. The mother would come and say, no, those kids alone, how? How can you trust them and everything? Then you have to start negotiating on their behalf. But you say, dear, it's just sleep. We're dropping them there. We pick them up. No, it's not right. And it took time until she had agreed to let them go. So we had to go drop them. And then the time to come to pick up, she would remind me constantly and sit in the car with me. Let's go pick up our kids. And God forbid they're delayed for 10, 15 minutes.
Oh,
Hey.
I told you.
The maneno is sorry, the words I would get from her, it would be like, damn. Anyway, but you get to accept it and you learn and you navigate along. When we were of a single parent, I would say yes, talk to them, make sure they're okay. And if it's a place where I'm worried, I'll make sure there's a bodyguard around them to watch over them, and that's it. But it was tough. It was very, very tough.
I can imagine.
Until when you started going to Europe and you start telling her, look at other kids, how their parents are living with their kids.
Yeah.
Look at this, their parents are living. Now she would open her eyes, kid, and say, okay. But still, even when she was in London, she had the same African mentality. I don't know you African women, even if you go to Europe, I don't know what you want to change.
Daddy, that's a story for another day.
A bigger issue adjusting compared to men, especially when the girls say, you see the men quicker to adjust, but I think also because their identity is kind of attached to their culture but because when we lived in UK, believe it or not, even my brother, if we needed something, would call my dad. We wouldn't ask my mom. We'd call my dad. And then my dad would say yes. And then we'll go to my mom. We're doing this today because that. And it'll be like, what do you mean? Like, that said yes. So talk to dad.
And then use that card all the time. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And I start fighting because that said yes.
And then I'll get a phone call from London. You talk to the kids. You should have asked me first.
And you're like, oh, what? Oh my goodness.
And then that will be like, I assume they already talked to you and you told them ask your dad. And we're just like, we were told yes. Dad said yes. I am packing. I am going.
Oh wow. Okay. Conversely for you, Paula, was there a part of you that felt like even as you were growing up, you had to, because you talked about one side of the family that they would say things about your dad's parenting style, that for you, you made it a choice that you were never going to bring what, let's call it, what Africans would say, shame to my father's name. Was there a part of it that felt that pressure to prove them wrong in a way?
Actually, not really. I don't think I've ever had that, like, I will bring shame kind of mentality. But also, I never really, I'm choosing my words right here. I never really cared that much about what my mom's family said, because even once I started studying abroad, they will always talk, but like, if you really care, but you're not calling me or texting me to see how I'm doing, whether I'm in boarding school or whatever, but then you always have a reason to talk about what I'm doing wrong. That to me isn't caring, because to me, I thought if you're auntie and uncle, you're supposed to check on me. You're also supposed to discipline me, but you can't just choose to discipline me when you know, you know? So to me, I block them out. But then God bless my grandmother. I have an amazing grandmother who later in our old age, we are finally getting along. But
is it your mom's mom? Your mom's mom?
My dad's mom.
Your dad's mom, okay.
How old is she?
94.
94. Wow. God bless her. When we were growing up, she was always, you know, babies and their grandsons, right?
Yes, yeah.
Grandmothers and their grandsons. So it was always Patrick and Alvin. Then me and Tanya, because we are the four Mulamulas, like on the side. So me and my sister were like on the same level where, by the way, Paula was the tomboy who always hung out with the guys, right? and imagine, this is an older grandma.
Yeah.
And you're like, this girl is not in the kitchen, but she's always having friends who are boys. Everybody who comes in here asking for Paula is a boy. She literally said Paula will get pregnant before she's 18.
Wow.
So I think in that sense, I'm like, oh my God, I proved people wrong. I'm 35 and not pregnant.
Yay! A win is a win is a win. But now Dad wants you to get pregnant and settle down, okay? Right,
and now
Dad?
they're begging for this grandchild, and I'm like, damn, yo, man. But it was also growing up with that last name also had big heavy burdens. My dad worked in the government. My uncle, my dad's brother, because on my dad's side there are only two, him and his brother, worked for the government. His brother's wife worked for the government. So there was always whatever you do back home, especially in Da when you're home. Everybody knows you because they know your father or your
your
uncle.
family name.
Like, do you know, even when I was coming back from Malaysia and when I was studying in Malaysia, when I'd go home, I'll have to stack up on either morning after pills or whatever, because God forbid I get seen in a pharmacy
buying something.
Money. Literally, even when I used to arrive at the airport in Dar, people would start calling my dad. We see your daughter here. I'm like, I was telling my dad, I'm like, do you know how many girls get flown in by the boyfriends for a weekend and their parents don't know? You, as soon as I touch down, everybody is texting you. And my dad is literally at the airport in the car waiting for me
to pick you up. And it's getting the call.
No matter what, would always pick me up. Like he says, I don't care, I'm picking you up from the airport. So there were things like that with my name. That's why even when I started doing podcasting or going live with it was always that, yo, I still have this last name. At one point, me and my younger brother wanted to change the name, and because we were like, it had its benefits and its burdens, because everything reflects on you. The good, people are very quick to congratulate you, and then the bad, they're very quick to point fingers on you. So it was like, damn. So that was more the concern, but as part of bringing shame to the name with my family, like I didn't care much about it. And no offense, especially on my mom's side, like the love was never there.
And what's your relationship with your mom now? Even though this is about dad, but I hope it's like at least, you guys talk.
It's there. I think the only time I really had any relationship with my mom's side was before my grandfather died. And I think that was also my I feel like my dad only tolerated because my grandfather on my mom's side, God rest his peace, he was an incredible man. Like that man was amazing. And my brother was named after him. But I think after he passed, all that went down the drain. And as far as my mom, I respect her as my mom and I love her as my mom, but unlike my dad, she still isn't in that place of healing and talking. She's a mom, an African mom. Like, we are not talking about that. I don't care how you feel. It is what it is. So I've just tried to accept that, and we love on each other when we love on each other, and we take it as it is.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, as we close off this episode, I'd like to ask you first, Paula, is there something on your heart, on your mind that you haven't had a chance to express yet that you like to tell your dad?
I want to share this memory, right? So growing up, I always wanted to get a belly button piercing, right? And a tattoo. Those were my
because why not? It's Paula.
And I was in UK. So my mom said, no. And my dad was in Italy working on some case, right? And because Italy to UK, you can take a train. So he was like, oh, the weekend I'm gonna be off, let me escape. He didn't tell them he was leaving, so he just took a train and came. And my mom was at work or something, so me and my dad went to the mall. And we had planned on doing, like, we were gonna get my belly pierce because I was under 18, so I had to have my parents sign off. And then me and my dad said we were gonna get matching tattoos. But as soon as I got the belly piercing, he got a call and he was needed back, so he had to leave. So we never got to the tattoos. But then I thought I could hide that from my mom, but though they said, you had to clean it 3 times a day because my mom found me cleaning it. Oh my God, she started shouting and I was like, Dad said I could, he took me. My dad was already on the train
Oh, Dad is gonna be in trouble. Oh, Dad.
I don't know how much noise he had that day from that belly button, but I think that was when my dad actually got me into piercing, because the next thing I know, I ended up with a tongue piercing all around. Like, and I remember when I did a tongue piercing, I came home and I didn't tell my dad, and I was hiding it. And it was actually Irene at that time who came to me and was like, my dad saw it and he's just wondering if there'll be kutu. Kutu is, what do you call kutu in English?
Rust.
Oh,
Yeah,
like a rust.
he's like, yeah, he has seen you, but he's
He
just
was
wondering.
concerned about your health. Oh.
And I ended up getting a tattoo by myself in Malaysia, but I'm still hoping one day me and my dad get a matching tattoo.
Oh, wow. And Dad, as we close off, two questions for you. As there something you'd like to express to Paula that you haven't done before, and I'd like to give you an opportunity. And then I had another question.
Tell me how much you love me and you're proud of me, Dad. This is your time.
Paula, don't put words in his mouth.
You've said it, Paula. You've said everything. But I'm waiting for the day you tell me, man, Dad, I need you to fly down to Atlanta. You walk me down the aisle.
Oh, damn. You won't be in Atlanta, Dad. I ain't getting married in Atlanta, but it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, Atlanta men, I know that Daddy don't want Atlanta men. Sorry, no diss to anyone in Atlanta, but Atlanta is
no. My dad is right.
But one thing,
already met a man I'm gonna marry. Just doesn't know
your partner. Tell your partner when he has to come to Tanzania. We're getting married in Bukoba.
Oh, God damn it! I don't know about that, but him coming to Tanzania is coming, and my dad already knows who I'm gonna get married to. He just doesn't know that's who I'm gonna get married to.
Oh, okay. All right. No hurry then. Dad, as Paula, navigates her own life and potential future parenthood, what's one piece of advice you'd like to recycle to Paula?
I think Paula has seen how we were as a father and a daughter, how we managed to grow together up to this age, and I'm just trying to tell her that she has to take things easy and copy what the good things she saw in me.
Wow, I like that. I like the acknowledgement that the good things. So that's acknowledging I've probably done some things that weren't so good, but focus on the good things, and that's strength right there. That's strength right there.
I tell people all the time, when I have a child, I wanna be in a place where I can give them everything my dad gave me and more, but nothing less. Because my dad did an amazing job as a father. Like when I tell you, going to school, I never had anything to worry about. Never. And it didn't become clear to me until you come to America and hear people's stories about college. I have student loans, or I had to.
Or they kick them out at 18, like go live go be by yourself at 18, like.
Listen, I had a little business in Malaysia because people used to call me Mangi. Mangi is like a shop owner in there, because I would ship konyagi and stuff to Tanzania. My dad one time literally had to pay almost $200, $300 for extra luggage when I was going to school. And he complained. He was like, can't believe I'm paying extra luggage for your alcohol and shit. But he didn't know that I was taking them there because I was selling. I would go with all these Tanzanian goodies and I'll be selling them by one. Like, I was mangy, like, but I couldn't tell him because Malaysia, you weren't allowed to work.
Yeah.
Pocket money. But if I tell him I started hustling, the pocket money could have reduced, Don't share that.
Now you hear it, Dad.
I'm hearing it. You gotta pay me back.
The product.
You owe that some back payments, by the way, Paula. Pay up.
You need to pay me,
Paula. I'll send him that talk shit with him merchandise and he can sell them however he wants. And keep the money.
And then Dad, finally, what advice do you want to give new fathers, especially those who might be navigating single parenthood?
Well, being a single parent, a lot of people come and tell you advice is that you got to do this with your kids, you have to do that with your kids. But one thing, they should know that they should be stable and they should know their kids, know their problems, know what the kids want, and support them. And the best part is they have to be stable. You know, when you're a single parent, you're alone, people come and confuse you. But if they are stable, they talk to their kids, they understand their kids what they want, and give the kids whatever they can afford to give them. Okay, everything will be okay. God has a mysterious way of showing you good things in life as a single parent.
Wow. Thank you. I want to thank both of you for just the time
Can I
we've
share
had
one
today.
thing?
Sure, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just to add on that, and I think which is one thing I appreciate, and that's why I don't believe in normal life. There's no such thing as normal lifestyle, right? The norm, right? Like this is the norm. This is how it should be. My dad took the chance of raising us the way he felt worked for him, and even allowed us to live our lives the way that it felt right to us while him supporting. And that's why I'm always gonna be choosing the unknown and living in the not the norm and doing life by myself. And because for the longest time, it's funny we are talking about me getting married right now, but for the longest time, my dad has had me saying he will never get to walk me down the aisle because I don't want to get married. Even though the funny thing is, me and my dad's favorite movie was Father of the Bride, like because of the relationship the father had with the daughter
Yeah.
and everything. So it comes full circle. But he also never pushed me like when I told him that I never want to get married and he'll never walk me down the aisle. Even if he was disappointed, he didn't show it because he never pushed marriage or kids onto me. It was like, as long as you're living a life you're happy, as long as you're happy, I'm going to be okay. So that's why right now I'm in that age where, you know what, I really don't care about getting married, but because people are losing their parents, I'd rather, if I was to get married, do it now
Now
where
with
my father is still around to walk me down the aisle. So I'm not just doing it like it's not like I'm being forced or anything. So I appreciate that. And I love that for that. But I also want to give a shout out to my bonus mom Irene, because me and my dad's relationship has also been straightened by her. There are times when me and my dad would literally butt heads. Like I would come home from holiday and after a week, because we are all used to living alone, right? We are all used to living our own life. And then I'll come home after a week where we are so happy of seeing each other. I miss you, I miss you. Then after a week, oh, you're doing this, oh, you're knowing this, and would get into each other. Irene would always be the middleman because my dad will call her to complain.
You will call her to
I'll
complain?
call her to complain. And she'll be like, do I choose my man or do I choose my
Bonus
future
double. Yeah.
daughter? Like, so she handled it nicely. She called me out when needed. She called my dad out when needed. And so I guess I was right when preferring her to be my future bonus mom, because that's what I look for, somebody who, and she's been amazing at that. So I know it's Father's Day and everything, but I just wanted to give a shout out to her real quick.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you both. And shout out to, Irene, Patrick, and, just even your mom as well.
I don't
And
know if Patrick will be happy with this episode, but
hey, we can also tag his music, whatever his can
what
send that
will
to
make
me.
him happy?
Yes, let's put that. Let's make it creative happy, because I know that makes us very happy when we get that recognition that we desire. And thank you all for tuning into this special Father's Day episode. We hope you've been inspired by Paula and her dad's beautiful story and incredible bonds. And for me, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, the high moments and the low moments, but it's also healing. And we know that fathers play such a vital role in our lives, especially daughters. And being able to celebrate that connection today has been truly heartwarming for me. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to go support Paula's show. I'm gonna put that in the show note. It's Talk Shit with P. And go buy her merchandise. She has a full store of several things, everything Paula, everything bright, beautiful. And yeah, we wish all the wonderful dads a very happy Father's Day. Until next time, let's keep celebrating the love and wisdom in our lives. And yeah, I remain your host, Mo. Bye for now. And thank you, sir. Thank you so, so much. Such an honor
Thank
meeting
you.
you and hearing so much from you. And I will share the episode when it's ready. Send you a link so you can listen to this and cherish this as well. Thank you.
Dad, if you
Thank
don't
you.
get a Father's Day present, this is your present. I
Paula,
love you.
you owe
Father's
him a
Okay.
lot of money from Malaysia now. Get him something. Don't buy him socks. Thank you,
this,
Mo.
this man has been doing shopping. If this suitcase goes back to Tanzania and there's no gift in there, I don't think I will live a happy life. So
You better make it count.
there'll definitely be Father's Day gifts in that suitcase.
Thank you both so much, and wish you a lovely week ahead.
Thank you.
All right, bye for now.